Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today I have with me Shekhar Iyer and we're going to take a quick look at the political landscape. There was a hearing in the Senthil Balaji case in Madras High Court. We will be giving you that update in addition to the other things. For example, Modi has given a stern message to the opposition. Whose UCC's time has it come now? And army's dilemma in Manipur. What is really happening there? So without further ado, let's welcome the guest of the day, Shekhar Iyer ji. Shekhar ji, namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel, sir.
Namaskar, Shri. Namaskar.
So let's start with what happened in the court in Madras High Court regarding Senthil Balaji's application. He's still in a hospital. People are not sure whether he underwent bypass or not. So there is some sort of a limbo there. But now they have hired a very high-profile lawyer, Mukul Rohatgi, that is the DMK, that is Senthil Balaji's family. I don't know how they can afford his fees. And a lot of things happened yesterday, sir. Please give us a quick summary on what happened.
Yes, in fact, this is about he's supposed to be in judicial custody in the sense that, but the ED is allowed to question him, but the custody is actually in the hospital. So it is very difficult for Enforcement Directorate to seek to question him when particularly he's in a hospital and supposedly in a medical condition that may not allow that kind of activity to take place. So therefore, the Enforcement Directorate, represented by Solicitor General, had moved the Madras High Court against its own order, which said that the judicial custody would be presumed to be happening when he is in hospital. So the Enforcement Directorate has basically challenged, look, that his period in the hospital cannot be taken as part of the judicial custody, and that they have to be allowed to question him in an environment which is not contrary to the atmosphere that the ED would want to question an accused in a money laundering case. But from Senthil Balaji's side, as you mentioned, they have hired a very high-profile lawyer, that is Mukul Rohatgi, and who has contested the Enforcement Directorate's claim, saying that Enforcement Directorate is not a police agency. It's not a police that it can claim certain powers, and therefore, whatever the Madras High Court has said, that you can question him as and when the health conditions permit or the medical conditions permit. So this is the basic thing, that is Mukul Rohatgi on behalf of Senthil Balaji, rather defending the Madras High Court order, and here you had the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta questioning the stand taken by Senthil Balaji as well as the order passed by the Madras High Court. So I think the Madras High Court will have to take a call finally as to the plea of the Enforcement Directorate, that that this should not be part of the judicial period, the custody that has been ordered, because that period would be different when he is not in the hospital. But right now he is in the hospital. But what I can say is the accused in such cases normally tend to prolong their stay in the hospital so that they are out of bounds for the investigative agencies. So that is where the matter is. And of course, the Enforcement Directorate is relying on the Supreme Court verdict on the powers of the Enforcement Directorate, and particularly when they are invoking the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, PMLA, saying that they do have special powers and they need not disclose the grounds under which they are arresting the person, but subsequently they can tell the court. And that is what has happened in the case of Senthil Balaji, according to Enforcement Directorate. When he was produced before magistrate, or in this case the judicial magistrate went to the hospital and pronounced the order that the Enforcement Directorate has informed her, the judge, as to what grounds his detention has been sought, his custody has been sought. So, of course, it all appears to be, right now revolving around the legal provisions and the Madras High Court order. But what we can see, or rather sense, is that, like all accused, Senthil Balaji is getting the best of legal support and aid and counsel to somehow prevent himself being taken into the ED custody even subsequently, because that is the ultimate worry. and that is the ultimate worry of his supporters in the party and his benefactors, and those whom he has also been closely linked with. So one can see that what is happening right now. But then Enforcement Directorate would take its own time, and they are waiting for a order from the Madras High Court. And if it is not um, acceptable to them, they may challenge it in the Supreme Court. Shane.
So what happened at the end of the day yesterday? Because is it coming back today? What happened? What did the court rule at the end?
I think at the right now the hearing will continue for some time, I believe, because the matter will be taken up next month. That is what I gather. So it's going to
Next
take some
month.
time.
So that 14
Already,
days will be over.
yeah, but then again, this matter will again come up before the lower court. I mean, before that Enforcement Directorate, which had sought. But by then, they will also see what is his health condition, because that is also a very important thing that is going to happen. I mean, they are going to see what is the further praise. But right now, I think even this itself will be challenged. And Enforcement Directorate is very keen that Senthil Balaji medical condition being what it is or what is supposed to be, they would prefer an independent medical board to examine and allow them to proceed in this case, because they have collected a lot of evidence. And in the meantime, they have also sent summons to his wife, to his brother, and they have been avoiding these summons.
A lot of balls up in the air. We'll see what happens. Let's take a quick look at what happened with Modi's stern message to the opposition. Shekharji, what is this regarding?
Well, yesterday Prime Minister was back in his political element, I must say, because he's back from a hugely successful trip to the United States and Egypt. And he was addressing the booth level workers in Bhopal. And Madhya Pradesh was chosen for a simple reason that Madhya Pradesh goes to polls end of this year along with Chhattisgarh, Telangana, and Rajasthan. And this was something that the BJP booth level workers were waiting. After the defeat in Karnataka, the morale of the rank and file, all over the country has been sort of a low. And yesterday, Prime Minister sought to fire on all cylinders so that the workers take up the fight in full earnest in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, and also in Telangana. But one thing is coming clear: the Prime Minister set two agenda very clearly. One, he has responded to the tamasha we saw in Patna, where all the opposition leaders met, but without any concrete decision, and finally left it to Congress to take it forward, this so-called unity move next month in Shimla, that is probably around 10th or 12th. So what the Prime Minister made it clear, which we all thought that is a strategy that the BJP would adopt to show that this is an assembly of the people who are facing corruption charges, serious corruption charges. And the Prime Minister went to the extent of saying that together, all these opposition leaders who were seen on a common platform in Patna on June 23rd, they together, are involved in scams that could be valued at more than 20 lakh crores. So you can imagine the political, the war that is going to start. And one thing is also clear, that this is going to be the running theme of the Prime Minister Modi's campaign for next Lok Sabha. One, that of course, one is the governance model that the Prime Minister has been advocating at every election, whether it's assembly or any other political platform he has been talking about. The second thing is to bring back the agenda of corruption, to bring it back and saying that there are hurdles in this government's drive against corruption, particularly by the previous governments, and he also made it very clear that, you used a nice term, that this is a combination of dynasty and corruption. So the poser to the voters from now on till the 2024 election is, if you want to vote for the future of Karunanidhi and his children and grandchildren, then vote DMK. If you want to vote for Sharad Pawar and the future of his daughter Supriya Sule, vote for NCP. If you want to vote for the future of Sonia Gandhi, her children and her grandchildren, then vote for the Congress. But if you want to think about your future, then vote for the BJP. So
that's a good way to explain it. Yeah.
So that is how it has started. And along with that, I think the second thing that the Prime Minister is focusing on is to show that among their core, what I would say is their ideological promises which they had mentioned in the manifesto. One was Article 370, they have done. Citizenship Amendment Act, they have enacted, and it is awaiting Supreme Court verdict on that. And the third is Ram. I mean, of course, first was Ram Temple, 370. Then you had the CIA, and the fourth is the Uniform Civil Code. I think with the Prime Minister speaking for the first time on Uniform Civil Code, because hitherto we have heard from others. And in the elections that were held in Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Goa and other places, where the state BJP units talked about what they are going to do to bring in a uniform civil code across the country, how they are setting up committees. But here, yesterday, we heard the Prime Minister himself for the first time saying, look, we are mandated by the Supreme Court, which is हमारे ऊपर दंडा चलाता है. They keep on pulling us up for why we are not moving ahead to enact or at least to work towards a uniform civil code. When there is a common criminal law, why not a civil law? So yesterday, Prime Minister's first time making those observations, and that too before a BJP workers meeting, makes it very clear UCC is high on agenda, but we are not yet sure what will be the strategy. Next month, you will have the monsoon session of Parliament opening in the new building, which was just inaugurated with Sengol. And so similarly, what we're going to see is, and what is the approach, because Law Commission has given time till mid-July for comments to it has sought comments on this code. And on that immediate reaction, we have seen already Asauddin Owaisi went hammer and tongs at the Prime Minister saying there are several contradictions. How are you going to balance? Are you trying to impose a Hindu code on all of us all over the country? And what about those contradictory laws that are there? What about laws and rules that protect the tribal customs? How are you going to balance? We have already seen some groups in the Northeast have also expressed reservation. But one can see a debate has now been started in full earnest by the Prime Minister, and there are going to be a lot of reactions. And what the Prime Minister intends is to make this debate itself a focal point of the campaign. I mean, there will be a lot of pros and cons, there will be arguments, counter arguments, and the accusation that this is another of those quote unquote ugly side of the attempts to push Hindutva agenda, things like that. But at the same time, Shri Arjun, that was interesting. The Prime Minister also spoke at large about this BJP's outreach to Pasmanda, or the Pasmanda means the left behind Muslims. Basically, the Muslim community has had two categories. One is the upper caste and those who claim descendants from the people who came from the invaders. Then you have
Ashrafiyas.
the Ashrafiyas, and the other rest is all these Ansaris and others who are mostly backward class or even Dalits. And though Islam doesn't talk of a caste system, but in practice we have seen caste system exist even in Christianity, practiced in Kerala and in other places. Similarly, there is a caste system among the Muslim community, in the sense Pasmandas have suffered. And this Prime Minister's call to rather beef up the BJP's outreach program, because within the BJP there are many skeptics who say, look, no matter what you do, no matter all these Pasmanda outreach to Pasmanda will not help, because Muslims are not going to vote for us. This has been a counter current or a counter argument. But the Panchayat election in Uttar Pradesh has seen BJP candidates who are Muslims getting elected at the Zilla Parishad level, at the Panchayat level. We have also seen in by-election, Muslim candidate of an alliance partner of the BJP has got elected, which means that there is a churning. And Prime Minister constantly says, look, triple talaq has made a huge difference to the life of average Muslim women who face this instant divorce call, and all of them almost belong to the backwards or the left behind the Muslim community. So we can see the Prime Minister is, on one hand, he has brought in this UCC platform to the plank, rather, to the forefront, and along with that, defending the outreach program. I think his defense of outreach towards Pasmanda is also intended for those skeptics within the party, and even within sections of the broad, what I would call the pro-Hindutva voters or pro-Hindutva sections of the society who feel that BJP should not be doing anything like this. But then Prime Minister feels that it is time that we should not leave out any section of the society from being approached by the BJP. Sir, I recall in year 2000, that is 2 years after Atalji became Prime Minister, 98, 99, I mean 98 to 99, then from 99 after the second time when NDA came to power under Vajpayee ji, there was a BJP session in Nagpur where they adopted a Nagpur declaration, which particularly called for BJP should reach out to the Muslims, and it even quoted what Deen Dayal Upadhyay had said. I mean, their ideologue had said that Muslims are flesh of our flesh and blood of our blood. Therefore, to convey the message that BJP does not nurture any animosity towards this particular section of the society. Rather, we must make effort. The only problem is we are opposed to the identity politics. Incidentally, sir, the Pasmandas have been looking at the socio-economic issues because that is what affects them most. And the Prime Minister's contention is all his flagship programs do not discriminate when it comes to the beneficiaries. There are labharthis among all sections, whether it is PM Awas Yojana, that is housing, building houses, or providing public toilets, or electricity connection, or piped water supply. There has been no discrimination. That is, the Prime Minister has been saying it. So we need to rather basically to show that today is the so-called secular politics, which has been done by all these parties, whether it is RJD or Janata Dal, they have been more fueling the identity politics of Muslim leadership rather than addressing the basic economic issues and the problems of these left behind Muslims or the Pasmanda Muslims. But I expect that there will be a lot of noises from the opposition because they feel that they call it, this is yet another attempt to divide and rule. But more than that, there is a crisis because a lot of you are also seeing a number of leaders who belong to Pasmanda sections of the Muslim community yesterday speaking up after the Prime Minister spoke. Yes, they say that a lot more needs to be done because it is being pointed out, sir, a number of programs like scholarships. More than 2 crore people belonging to Muslim community have taken the scholarship provided by the charity ministry, and the bulk of them belong to the Pasmanda community. So I think this Pasmanda outreach is going to be an interesting dimension of the BJP's attempt to seek a third mandate in 2024.
Thank you so much, Shekharji. And now let's look at Army's dilemma in Manipur. Sir, the cookies demonstrated against India in Washington, D.C., and the Manipuris, Meiteis also were there, but they were much more subdued. They were saying that we need support from the Indian government. Both groups were there in Washington, D.C. I don't know how many of you guys picked up on that. So now there appears to be some sort of a challenge for the army. Please walk us through what is happening there, sir.
Just 2 days ago, we saw Army coming out with a statement, particularly the units which are currently deployed in Manipur, saying that they had apprehended 12 militants belonging to the Meitei community who were rather indulging in violence. When they got a tip-off, when they went to arrest them and even arrested them, they were stopped by almost 1,000 member crowd, rather a mob, and most of them were women. And they were forced to release those militants who were apprehended by the army because the army did not want to engage the mob, particularly women. And therefore, they issued an appeal that they should be allowed to do a free work. This has raised questions as to why it has taken such a long time in Manipur for the army and the other security forces to bring it under control. But I can see that the army, whenever it is assisting the civil authorities in a disturbed area like Manipur, the wisdom which the army has gained over experience in the Northeast is to see that the use of force is to the minimum. For a simple reason, when the army is deployed on internal situations, they are not dealing with an enemy crowd. They are not dealing with the enemies, rather. They are dealing with our own people. So the army's approach is to see that somehow people can be persuaded to understand and appreciate why the army is there, why they must be allowed to do their work to bring peace. And in this instance also, because normally in a situation where army is in an operation, invariably anybody who comes in the way are just shot and removed from the situation. And rather, the army word of saying is that they are neutralized. But here is a situation where the army would not like, to further aggravate what, what has happened in Manipur by engaging these women, particularly. Of course, the contention of these women led groups is that when they were attacked by the militants from the other side, particularly the Kukis, there was none to defend them. Therefore, their youths were now on a mission to take, to take revenge, to avenge for what had the kind of loss of lives and destruction. So, basic thing is it's going to getting more and more difficult. One of the first thing that the Prime Minister reviewed on his return from America yesterday, he came back early Tuesday morning, and I think by around 10, 11 in the morning, he was back in a conference with the Home Minister and other members, senior members of the cabinet, where he took complete report of the situation in Manipur, where more forces may be required, and eventually some force may be also deployed, because otherwise, without which you cannot bring situation under control. What is shocking to all of us is the divide between the communities, between the Meiteis, Kukis. Of course, for the moment, the Nagas are not so much involved, but we have earlier seen situations where Christian Nagas and Christian Kukis have also been under tension, because an attempt is also being made that this is about Hindu Meiteis versus Christian Kukis. I think religion is a secondary matter here. With my own experience as a reporter in Imphal way back in the 80s, it's rather the ethnic identity that is dividing this present unrest, as well as mutual suspicion and distrust. That has to be broken. Of course, there is a history to it. The history is that the pressure on the land with just Meiteis and Cookies and everyone else, depending on the 10% land that is available in the Imphal Valley, and the rest of the 90% area or hills, which are dominated by the Cookies and Nagas, and the Meiteis cannot buy land there, whereas all rest of them can buy land here and settle down. This has been a grievance, and also that High Court order that came ordering the government to give a scheduled tribe status, which I mean, normally a scheduled tribe status is not given on the basis of a court order. Rather, there is a process by which the state government examines the claim. But there are reasons why the Meiteis feel so upset and so isolated and so alienated in their own land. That's why I said there is a lot of history to it. People are also asking questions about how, during the British time, the Christian missionaries, particularly foreign missionaries, were allowed to go to the hills and indulge in conversion and things like that. And whereas the Meiteis themselves could not go there and do anything, do any work. And hills have always had problems of logistics and things like that. So there is a history to it. And today, I think there is a need for a dialogue. But before the dialogue, a lot of those mobs which have weapons, particularly automatic weapons, they will have to be disarmed. And that may require the army to do what it hates to do in internal situations.
Thank you so much, sir. And now let's take a few questions. Thank you, Naresh Kumar, for becoming a member. Srinivas Jayaprakash wants to know, UCC will ultimately prompt more Muslims to move the court as the dispute resolution by Jammat will stop. How will the already overburdened judiciary manage the new influx?
Well, Srinivas ji, you are right, because this is introduction of uniform civil law is going to happen by one single legislation. Already, All India Muslim Personal Law Board is meeting today to take stock of the situation after the Prime Minister's remarks yesterday. So there will be a lot of opposition. There will be opposition on the legal front. There will be opposition on the other fronts also. And I can see that again there will be hue and cry by different sections, by vested sections. But the fundamental fact that Uniform Civil Code was mentioned in the directive principles of state policy, which urges the state, which urges the executive to move forward and try and introduce it. But today, the mood has been created as if UCC is something, a question of, can be done or need not be done. And people are quoting the Law Commission's last report saying that the matter is so complicated, it is best avoided. So these are extreme viewpoints on uniform civil code. But at the same time, like Asauddin Owaisi was yesterday throwing a lot of questions at the Prime Minister. He said, "You have already implemented triple talaq. You have already, interfered with our uh, some of our personal laws. Then what is the need for a UCC?" So what I can see, sir, with the BJP's intention is very clear. They would rather like to show that they are equally serious on this, one of their core promises to the electorate, on bringing in a UCC. And maybe there is a draft legislation is being worked upon, and a bill could be introduced when Parliament meets next month, but then it could be done in the Rajya Sabha, which is a permanent house, and the debate could go further. There will be demands to take it to the. Of course, there could be opposition right at the introductory stage itself, saying that the law is not necessary. Then there could be. It's going to be a protracted battle. There is no doubt about it. It's going to be a protracted battle. But the message that has come from the Prime Minister is very clear that BJP is indeed very serious in this task.
Next question from Pawan Kishore. If the Congress win in the next batch of state elections, does it have any impact on people's perception on 2024 elections? The odds for INC in MP and CG seem to be positive.
Well, definitely it will have an impact. There is no doubt about it. Already you are seeing one victory in Karnataka. I have always held, Sir Shriyarji, that Congress needs to win, just one election. The rest, their ecosystem will take care and show that how much strength it has brought to the Congress. And that's what is happening now. After the victory in Karnataka, the Congress is in great mood, and Congress and its supporters and the entire ecosystem that backs the Congress, including former bureaucrats, former officials, they all feel that Congress has really come to its full size and full magnitude, and it's only a question of few months before Congress can throw a big challenge to BJP. And the Prime Minister Modi is not invincible. That his appeal has limitations. That his appeal may be pan-Indian, but when it comes to states, there are local issues, regional issues, and governance issues that can really torpedo the BJP's national plan. So this is going to be difficult. I mean, the big challenge for the BJP would be they have to win Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Chhattisgarh, and possibly do very well in Telangana, better than the Congress, to show that the narrative is in their favor before the Lok Sabha elections of 2024. So that's a big challenge. And similarly for the Congress too, I mean, I keep saying that for the Congress too, they need to show that Karnataka was not just one-time wonder, and that there is indeed a mood for change, and Congress represents that change. But we can see that even the issues like opposition unity are going to wait for the outcome of these assembly elections. Before that, I can't see Congress really getting into the act, or other opposition parties also trying to gauge what is exactly the strength of the Congress in the last few months, that it feels so buoyant.
Thank you, sir. Next question. YouTube eyeing to censor channels for hosting BJP ministers in their podcast because left-wing reported against them. How legal is it to censor for just being reported by propagandists? No, Pavan, what typically happens is that before YouTube puts any resources on it, they have some algorithms that can trigger some sort of a constraint on a podcast. We have had, I think for 1 week, we had a censor because we had aired an interview with a Swedish journalist, and she had said some things about how Sweden is burning, and this suffered, and it was in English. So Western Europe picked it up. It went viral, but there was so much opposition that they took down the video, and they would not allow us to put any new videos for 7 days. As a matter of fact, when you cross 50,000 subscribers, you get a silver shield from YouTube, and I think when you cross 100,000, you get a golden, and there is a platinum level also. We have not got any of these shields, and the reason, I think they haven't explained why, is because that for 7 days we could not broadcast because they said that we violated their community guidelines. See, when the algorithm triggered such a move, such as like limiting the podcast channel, that could basically leave for the the channel to go back and appeal, and only then some human being will take a look at it from YouTube, and it's up to them whether they feel that this is something like a concerted effort to try and block a view that might be opposing, or if it was a genuine one. They'll have to look at the content. So essentially the content decides whether YouTube is going to censor or not censor. So that's what happened in my case. I didn't see them censoring because somebody was there. They felt that there were too many people saying this, and that lady was very specific. She said that I'll have to leave Sweden because I don't have any place anymore here. I don't feel like I am in my country. My country has been run over. Those were the words she said. So that is the problem, and we have to wait and see what happens in this case. I hope that they will not stop that channel. I know which channel we are talking about. It's a fairly influential channel, and especially among the youngsters, they have a fairly big subscription. Let's hope and see what happens. Shekharji, will Modi go and take back POK as a few commentators are saying?
Well, I don't see anything happening immediately on this front. It could be kept for the next term or for or subsequent terms. I do not know, but there has been a lot of I would say statements by some BJP functionaries as to that India is capable, and we have had recently situations where some military officials were quizzed by the media on this, and the response was, "Look, if the government gives a directive, we are capable of achieving any mission without any particular reference to whether it was POK." But this is not a situation that can happen immediately because there are international repercussions to this. But as a matter of debate in the run up to the next election, you will hear all these statements being made on this subject.
Next question is from Aditya Tiwari. Do you think BRS will succeed outside Telangana, or are they going to lose Telangana as well?
Well, BRS is having a tough time in Telangana, sir. There's no doubt about it, because Congress is now engineering a lot of defection from BRS to Congress, and also from BJP. There is also a lot of rumbling within BJP.
I heard Itala might be leaving.
Yeah, he may be leaving because he wants the present chief to be removed, and he's also demanding that he be projected as the chief ministerial candidate. So I do not know how the BJP High Command can be subjected to this kind of demands at gunpoint and seeking immediate acceptance. So it looks like BJP is having a lot of problem, but at the same time, there is, and the Congress, we have seen how Rahul Gandhi and Mallikarjun Kharge have been welcomed these defections, which is actually a reversal of what had happened earlier. When a lot of Congress leaders were all completely subsumed by KCR's grand plan for his party. So it's a tough election. So, but one more thing, there has been a lot of resentment among the opposition leaders in Maharashtra to KCR's forays into that state. Like, he went to Nagpur, we had a grand function, and he visited Pandharpur, Vittala temple, and you had the Eknath Shinde government also saying that in such religious places, where right now you have this is Vakri time, and Ashada Ekadasi is coming on 29th. So there were specific instructions were given, no political posters should be put. But KCR is spending a lot of money in Maharashtra, so where one can see whenever he visits any part of Maharashtra, huge posters are put up. His poster will also come up dustbin, but this is not being resented by parties. Like even Sharad Pawar has commented saying that if any other party is trying to encourage into Maharashtra, then we will have to be vigilant about such moves, which saying that basically disapproves KCR's ambitions in Maharashtra. But KCR is counting on the resentment among the leaders who are in the whether they are in BJP or they are in NCP, because NCP is the one party which is having a lot of rumbling, or in the Congress. So one can see, or even Shiv Sena. He would not mind anybody coming from anywhere. But with the resources at his command, he feels that he has to, go on his own, because he's not going to be part of. He has suddenly come up with the Naveen Patnaik kind of formula, equidistance from both BJP and Congress. So that's another thing.
Next question from Murali Venkateshan. What if UCC is harmful to the Sanatana Dharma followers? Isn't this Bhumi, the Janma Bhumi of Sanatana Dharma?
I do agree, Murliji, that UCC is not a it's not a easy, easily doable thing, because when you come, if you are going to confine UCC to say marriage, divorce, adoption, inheritance, well, it could be rather simpler. But if you are going to apply it to a lot of other laws that guide customs and traditions and things like that, then it's going to be a bigger exercise. Even in these four areas, whether it's marriage, divorce, inheritance, or adoption, even in these four areas, there could be issues that could be further stoked by vested interests who would not want a UCC to come. So this is going to be a very sensitive area, very, very sensitive area. But then the Prime Minister appears to have taken a call, and he is relying upon the Supreme Court's own observations, on the need for a UCC, and also the spirit of our founding fathers, of the Constitution, who said the principles of directive principles of state policy, how the state should progress in these areas. Because when the Constitution was being drafted, there was a lot of debate on this, and there could be no agreement on some of these areas. The OIC is asking a question which is more, I would say, for the sake of tark, for the sake of debate, for argument, that directive principles also mention several other things, because prevention of cow slaughter is one of them, which you have seen already states having laws. The second thing he says, the principles of state policy, directive principles also talk about bringing in prohibition. Will the Modi government bring prohibition? I mean, he's getting into this kind of tark and kutark, as they say. But it is a challenge, and there is no easy solutions.
Thank you, sir. Next question from ME. Shekhar sir, will Congress boycott monsoon session since Rahul is not an MP?
That's a really good question, because what would they do now? They have to go into the new parliament building. I mean, they could, or probably they can make UCC a big issue, or there are a number of issues for them. But other opposition leaders may not exactly agree, because this is an important session, and they have said whatever they have to say about they can go inside and say the same thing, and register their protest. But I'm not sure, because the issues are such before this parliament session. It is going to get really stormy. But then I'm told the new building has such facilities where whatever protest you like, you can use only your vocal cords. You cannot physically break mics or do anything, because those are all the whole building has been conceived such a way. You have probably hidden microphones and things like that, where it's not easy to move into the well, because the speaker's chair has been kept at a height where you cannot block the TV cameras which are stationed inside from focusing on the chair. I mean, there are things like that.
Interesting. But well, then, if they boycott, would they not be making it easy for BJP to pass any law they want?
Well, it may not be a sustained boycott. I mean, normally what happens is they do it for some time, and then to show that government is adamant and is not listening to them, is undemocratic, which they have done for such a long time. That's not a new strategy. But it all depends on what is the legislative agenda that the government brings before this session.
Next question from Arvind Gopalan. He wants to know, Namaskars, implementing UCC is one thing and people adhering to it is another thing. Do you think government could control people who will definitely try to violate UCC?
Well, if finally the government succeeding in enacting a common civil law, well, that will be the law of the land. I mean, until it is challenged, or until it is challenged and not upheld, or it is challenged and upheld. It all depends what finally happens. But once you have a law, then dealing with those who break the law is a subsequent thing that has happened. But here, the challenge itself is to bring a common civil law. So with strong arguments, and with the whole thing to be, the India is such a diverse land with people following different customs. How do we codify each and one of them? And can all that be done in a short span of time? At best, what you can see is the BJP government making its intentions clear with a kind of a draft legislation, then allow for a debate all across the country, because it will not just be in parliament, but it will also involve various groups who would like to examine the draft legislation, make proposals, because it's not going to happen in a hasty way. At least that's not what the Prime Minister has in mind. But he wants the atmosphere to be created for that kind of debate. That is his purpose, and also expose the opposition that for the sake of their core votes, the core vote bank, they are opposing on something which, in logically, they do not have enough reasons to oppose it.
Last question, sir. PM meets Bohras and Pasmandas as part of his appeasement program. What about the Dikshidars who safeguard as per Agama, the Chidambaram Natarajar?
Well, sir, we have seen that DMK government has not given up its effort to somehow bring this centuries-old temple, back under its control. Now, I am told this time this was all over. The latest is they have filed cases against some 11 Dikshidars because they had put up a board not allowing people to go to the Kanaka Sabha hall when there is ablutions connected with Adi Tirumanjanam, which is the Maha Abhishekam. And there are two occasions in the Chidambaram temple. One is Arudura Darsanam and another is this Tirumanjanam, which is the Great Abhishekam or Maha Abhishekam, where normally restrictions are placed by these priests. So it seems that when they were prevented and a board was put up, an official of the Hindu endowment and charitable a lady officer apparently intervened and sought to remove the board, and there was some problem, and she has filed a case. But somewhere along, one gets the feeling that the 2014 verdict of Supreme Court in the petition moved by Dr. Subramanian Swamy and other priests of the Chidambaram temple, Supreme Court had made it very clear that Dikshidars have the right in the management, have a full say the management of the temple. But the DMK government doesn't want to give up. Of course, there are allegations about mismanagement of the temple, that the Dikshidars are not allowing audit and things like that. But I think at the heart
I have
of it,
news on that, sir. The Big Four, I think Price Waterhouse has just finished auditing their books.
Okay.
So that's the latest update I have. So they can't even complain on that anymore. And the accounts are very pakka, sir. There is no hundi box. So there is no cash, So whatever cash you want to donate, they give you a receipt in immediately, and that gets accounted as part of their account. So this is
yeah. But why? My question is, why is that itch? At a time when there is a huge debate going on, that why Hindus are not allowed to manage their own temples. This debate is getting more serious, and people feel even a party like the BJP is not focusing attention to this demand, that if a party like BJP cannot be sympathetic to this issue, when you allow other institutions, other religious bodies to do what they want. And even Waqf board, there are so many complaints about Waqf board property being encroached and things like that. Why isn't the government really, particularly the current government, is not focusing on this? Sir, in Uttarakhand, we saw there was a big commotion before the Uttarakhand elections, and the BJP government, they reversed the decision to take over the boards managing those Char Dhams. That was reversed. Now, one more thing you asked me in the beginning, is it to divert attention from Senthil Balaji? Possibly. And as far as the update you asked me on the case, what I gather is Madras High Court has reserved orders on these arguments that were made by our Solicitor General Tushar Mehta and a leading lawyer Mukul Rohtagi. And the debate yesterday went on. The debate in the court went on more than for 16 hours. And June 28th is the date when the 14-day custody of Senthil Balaji ends. So they have been asked to make written submission. So one can expect Madras High Court to pronounce its verdict on the legality of the arrest sometime maybe end of this month or first week of July.
Well, that's it for us today. Thank you so much for joining. Viewers, please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. And Shekharji, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on all these topics. And we'll be back with Shekharji on Saturday. Thank you very much, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.